Wanted to start by just reminding you about the Fundraising Everywhere Trust and Major Donor Conference on the 11th of December. There's lots of really great sessions on offer, and I'll be co-hosting a session on becoming an accounts detective. I know that doesn't sound like it's sparkly and I must go to that one, but honestly, it will be really, really good. And it's about digging into those accounts to spot any red flags, any hidden opportunities, and maybe even some up and coming trends that we can spot in people's accounts about what they might be going to do next. Tickets for the conference are £75. It's fully online and you can dip in and out of the sessions that really interest you. I'll pop the link to signing up for the conference in the chat. And also we've got a monetary fundraising code to get 15% off your tickets as well. So I'll pop that in the chat for you. It should be a really, really good afternoon. But then a proper welcome, and thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday lunchtime. I know we say this a lot, but hasn't this year just flown by? I've no idea how it's December next week. It's scary quick how quickly that 2025 has gone by, and what a year it has been. So what I'd like is for the next hour-ish, is for this to be a really safe place for us to come together, to take a breath, to share honestly and remind ourselves that we're not alone. I know a lot of you are sole fundraisers that work on their own, that don't have a large team around them. So being able to come together for moments like this, where we can just chat and reflect, I think is really important. If you're joining us at the Let's Chat for the first time, it's exactly what it is, an open, safe space for trust fundraisers to come together, talk about what's going on in the sector, share challenges, ideas, and get lots of mutual understanding from people who are going through it themselves. So completely get it. What I want to do is spend some time reflecting on how 2025 has been for us all, look at how we can build resilience, talk about the new fundraising code and what it means for us as trust fundraisers, and then finish with some practical year-end tips and also some hopes for 2026. What do we think is on the horizon? Feel free to keep your cameras off, or put them on if you want to. Speak up or just listen, whatever feels right for where you are and what you need today. So let's start with that, because I'd love to check in with you all and see how you are. How's everyone feeling? How has 2025 been for you as we head towards the end of the year? You don't have to share your innermost secrets with us here. I just a word or two in the chat, or if you're feeling brave, pop on the camera or put your microphone on, and tell us how you're feeling. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're hopeful, frustrated, proud, or a mix of them. I think as fundraisers, we're a mix of that on a regular basis, aren't we? I think this year has tested everyone, even the most experienced fundraisers, in lots of different ways. Many of us have been juggling tightened budgets, increasing competition for funding. That's not escaped the trust fundraising world. In fact, it's probably been worse for us in trust fundraising, or balancing the emotional weight of seeing projects, colleagues, or our peers under really immense pressure. But I think there's been some bright moments too, moments of connection, things like this that we've been doing throughout the year, unexpected wins, new funding sources, or simply times when you've managed to keep things going when it wasn't really. So I've seen some in the chat already, which is amazing. But what stood out for you? What's been hard and what's kept you going? Let's have a quick look in the chat. Tired but excited. 2025 has been a steep learning curve. It's been a super tough year. Yep. Exhausted but had quite a successful year. That's brilliant, Deborah. Well done. Fairly slow. I think we could all say that although the year has gone quick, opportunities have been slow. Catherine is hopeful but tired. It's been a year of change, some amazing highs tempered by general concern and lots of frustration. Absolutely. I think we've all been feeling that pressure, haven't we? And frustration that things that would have normally come off, that we could have guaranteed the income from, just hasn't worked this year. It's been a bit mixed, if I'm honest. I've had some great successes, but lots of rejections as well. Absolutely. It's been a really tough year with lots of challenges. Frustrated with a tough week with my org sector, refugee rights last week. Absolutely. If you're working in the refugee sector at the moment, it's been tough, not only for people working in that sector, but for the people that you're trying to support as well, with everything that's been in the press. It's been really tough, hasn't it? Had a few wins in the last few days. Gotta love trustee meeting season. Absolutely. November, December seems to do when all those lovely trustees want to meet. Um, but all less than 2K, still waiting on a big win to feel that we can take a breath. Absolutely. I'm hearing that a lot. Lots of little wins that, keep that pot going, that what I call the bread and butter, but none of those big wins for a lot of people that it can help you take a breath and take the pressure off. Some difficult moments, but ultimately in a stronger place with fundraising. Fantastic. Hayley, sorry that you found it hard. Lots of rejections. Absolutely feeling you there. A tough year, but light at the end of the tunnel. That's fantastic. It's been a mixed year with some successes and some rejections. Challenging, I think challenging would probably sum up 2025 for a lot of us, wouldn't it? Energized since starting in my new role and seeing some quick wins come in the door. That's amazing, Sarah. Well done. It's those quick wins that keep us going sometimes, especially in a new role, isn't it? Unpredictable, and I absolutely agree with that. Challenging and lots of change, lots of pressure from finance director on generating core funding. Charity doesn't understand how scarce this is. Absolutely, Deborah. That's something I'm hearing a lot. That core funding is definitely landing on the shoulders of trusts at the minute, which isn't the normal place people would look for core funding, is it? It's not the place that we would turn to. There's lots of other places, but trust fundraising, even though it's tough, seems to be the place lots of people are turning. A tough year, lots of remodeling, but some good news with a new fund just coming in. That's amazing. Challenging, but enjoyable most of the time. Amazing. We've got to keep it enjoyable, haven't we? Got to keep it going. Grateful for a decent year so far. And Sarah says she can relate to Deborah. I can relate to trustees, management not always having a great understanding of the current landscape and how tough it can be. And I wonder if, because there's lots of reports out there, isn't there, about how tough trust fundraising in particular can be, but it's hard to find something succinct sometimes that kind of encompasses everything that's going on. There's lots of nuances in the trust fundraising sector that have led us to where we are now. But if you're looking for kind of how many applications, that 1 in 10 are coming through, how many applications are trusts receiving, what's the kind of ratios of success. It's hard to find anything comprehensive overarching about that, and sometimes that's hard then to communicate with trustees and senior leadership what's actually going on in the sector. But I think sometimes it's because it's so nuanced depending on what sector you're working in. Like we talked about refugees earlier, we talked about children, education. It sometimes depends on what sector you're working in as to how those successes are. And also, if your team is new with lots of people in it, if it's been there with lots of experienced people, that can also affect your success rates as well, can't it? So even explaining to senior leadership and trustees how tough it is can be tricky to find the right information to help articulate that for you. Ed, almost my first million year. Lots of rejections though. That's amazing, Ed. Well done. Mixed year, a few big wins and lots of small grants, more rejections from funders than have previously given, and a few new funders. I think that's it. It's been challenging. It's been mixed. Lots of things that we thought we could count on haven't quite come off the way that we thought that they would, because it's so busy in the market. It's so competitive. And I think that's led for a really mixed, challenging year for all of us, hasn't it? And what I'm going to say next is you are not alone. It's no secret that 2025 has been really bumpy year across the sector. Funding has been under pressure. Some projects have been paused. Sadly, we've seen organisations we admire having to make some very difficult decisions, which includes, unfortunately, redundancies and closures. I've seen news of some really amazing organisations having to close recently, which just breaks your heart for the beneficiaries that were being supported by them, doesn't it? And all the people that are working there, really. It's a sad state of where some things are in the sector. For many of us working in trust fundraising, that uncertainty has crept into our day-to-day work, and that's adding to us feeling like it's a really challenging, pressurized year. Maybe through the delayed grant decisions, I've seen that a lot, that because funders have been overwhelmed with the amount of applications they've received. That's then delayed when they're making those decisions. So then you're constantly feeling like you're chasing when that decision will come through, which means that your pipeline and your forecasting has to change as well because things aren't coming through when you thought that they would. Less clarity from funders. Funders are absolutely overwhelmed, aren't they? So I'm hearing that we're not getting as much feedback, and I've seen that myself from a couple of applications that we've had that haven't been successful. But then that feedback also hasn't been there to help you understand what you could do differently next time, or whether there's any hope with that funder at all. Um, and then needing to justify every penny more carefully than ever before, along with, for many of us, the need to bring in more income and the need to bring in core income, like we've heard through the chat, that's becoming something that people are looking towards trust fundraising for. And in a really tough climate, that's an even tougher thing to find. And emotionally, it's taking its toll. Even the most experienced funders I know have said that they felt this year has really, really stretched them. Oh, Ed's put in, I heard a story of a funder who only read applications once a year and had 3,000 letters to read this year. They gave up after the first 100. I've also heard stories like that coming out of the sector. And I think this is why a lot of funders are saying, right, we'll only take the first 40, we'll only take the first 100. And some of that relies on you being quickest finger first. That doesn't necessarily mean that your project is not as good as some of the others. It just means you didn't get yours in as quickly as some of the others. So maybe some projects that maybe aren't so good or aren't such a good fit get through and others don't. There's no right or wrong way to do it when everything is just so competitive, is it? And people are being so overwhelmed. So I think it's really important to say if you're feeling drained as we get towards the end of the year, you're really not alone. And it's not a reflection on your ability, it's a reflection of a sector that's under immense pressure. And it's okay to stop and breathe and take some time for yourself. And that leads me on to resilience. I think when things feel really uncertain, resilience can sound like just another thing we're supposed to do, another thing to tick off the list. But it isn't about pushing harder for me. It's about giving ourselves permission to pause and do what's best for our own well-being. Sometimes resilience is saying no to one more thing. I can't take on anything else, or admitting that you're tired, admitting that you've done for this year. You're pushing on. You're running on empty now to get you through to Christmas and to having a break. It's reconnecting with people who understand, so friends, colleagues, or even joining a session like this where we can talk about it and understand what's going on. What's also important is to talk to people outside of the sector, because I think it helps gain some perspective, and you get to talk about something other than fundraising for a change as well, which is also really important for resilience. I think resilience is about noticing the small wins, the proposal that went out on time, the positive feedback you had from a funder about a project update you sent them, the donor report that made you really proud of the organisation you work for and the work that you do. Resilience isn't built through big gestures for me. It's built through tiny, consistent acts of self-kindness and connection. Take your full lunch. That's really important. Go for a stomp about in the rain with a good podcast to give your brain a break. Close your laptop when it's time to stop working and walk away. Go make that coffee to give yourself 5 minutes away from your computer. These are all the small things that really matter and helps build our resilience and helps keep us going. What small things do you do? What tips could we share with each other? Those are the things that I do. Those are the things that really help me. What do you do to help build your resilience and celebrate those small wins, or give yourself permission to do small things that just help you step away from your computer from a bit? Are you very good at going 5 o'clock, laptop shut, time to go, time to switch off? It's really hard, isn't it? It's really hard to do that. But if you've got any tips that you want to share with any of us, little things that you do, things that you find work for us, please do feel free to share them in the chat. Sarah says, I'm pretty good at switching off at the end of the day. That's brilliant. That's amazing, because some people do struggle with that, don't we? I'm an overthinker, and I will take things away from the day. And even if I close my laptop, I'll still be thinking about them. And Sometimes I will just open that laptop again at 9 o'clock. Go, if I just answer that question, then it might be out of my head. And that's the habit that I need to break, isn't it? Rachel says, I walk around the block every lunchtime, even when it's wet. I have some of those unattractive but brilliant waterproof trousers. Amazing. Spreadsheet of successful grant apps or of deadlines met. Amazing. So you can remind yourself of everything that you've achieved. Like that might not see that's just my day-to-day job, isn't it? Doing that. But actually, those are all the things that you've managed to achieve. Dimitri, on work from home days, forcing myself up nice and early to have a full morning to myself. Amazing. Having breakfast, that's another thing, isn't it? Often we skip breakfast. Let's just start working. I'll grab a coffee later. Having breakfast, taking time to settle into your day, having a cup of tea, having a cup of coffee. Those are all small things we can do. Do when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I set 30-minute timers for work sessions and get up and stretch for 5 minutes. That's amazing. That's a really good thing to do. Movement's really important, isn't it? Especially if we're sat at a desk working all the time. We haven't had much opportunity to get up and stretch our legs. Trying to build that into our routine is really important. Uh, Sarah says, keep some webinars and articles to read, watch if I need some inspiration. Absolutely. Taking time to come to things like this, like you have today, that's about well-being for yourself. That's about taking some time out for yourself, looking after yourself. And a fresh air and daylight at least once a day. Absolutely. Nicola loves the timer idea. Oh, is it the Pomodoro technique? Ed says, yeah, love it. I do that too. I know a lot of people that use that as well, that they need that kind of timer counting them down to when they can take a break, or so that they remember to take a break sometimes. Sarah says, working from home makes it challenging to switch off sometimes. Absolutely agree. I physically put a white blanket over my desk when I log off, so I'm not constantly clocking my laptop after work and on the weekends. That's amazing, Sarah. I do this not quite to the extreme of a white blanket, but I have a separate room that I can close the door of, and I try not to come in here over the weekends if I unless I really need to. And kind of leave it at that. Um, Fresh air and daylight, so important, especially at this time of year. I have the Merlin app for identifying birds by their bird call and walk down to the local park and look for birds on my work from home days. That's amazing. Well done, Sarah. Yeah, that things like that are important. Doing something we love, taking time to do something we love, giving ourselves permission to do something that we love. And Holly says, ignoring the guilt for doing a webinar and not an application. Absolutely. And even from, like I've heard people say, oh, I feel really guilty picking up the phone to try and speak to a funder because I'm not putting an application in, or taking some time to review an application I've done before. If there's anything I could do better, I feel really guilty about doing that because I'm not putting an application in. But all of that is helping build those relationships with trust funders, reviewing what we've done, looking at what we can do better, how can we make those changes. That is all adding up to us putting those applications in. And I've spoken about this a lot with different organizations that I'm working with, is giving ourselves permission to do those checks and to have that time where we're not actively putting in an application, we're reviewing our pipeline, we're having a look at some of our old applications to see what language we use then. Can we reuse some of that? Can we change some of it? What can we do to improve? Do we need new case studies? All of that is building to making an application, even if it isn't physically making an application. It all adds to and helps. Thanks so much, everyone. That there are some amazing tips there, and it's great to see that some of you are doing those things and recognizing that you need those little moments in the day to just help you build that resilience, help you feel good, and make sure that your well-being is in a good place too. So what I also wanted to do was just touch on redundancy. I know many of you will have faced redundancy at some point, that you might even be going through it now, or know someone that it is. I know it's not an easy topic to talk about, but it's one I think it's really worth touching on for any of you that's going through this at the moment. This year, many incredible fundraisers have found themselves facing redundancy, and it's absolutely no fault of your own. If that's been your experience or someone close to you, I just wanted to say I've been through redundancy, and it is never about your talent or your worth. You really do belong in this sector. If you can, Stay connected, attend free sessions like this, reach out to peers, keep your sector network alive, lean on us if you need that support. We're all here to support you. And importantly, lean on your support network outside of fundraising. It can make a huge difference to the way that you're feeling. And from a practical point of view, it helps you keep connected with what's going on in the sector and opportunities for you, but also supports your well-being. And please know that it's okay to take some time to rest and process and reset before deciding what's next for you. The work will always be there, but the well-being comes first. I know, I mean, I've been through many redundancies in my 20-year career and also at risk of redundancy in that time as well. And I think sometimes you feel like you're just getting through, you're just going through the motions because you don't know what the outcome's going to be the other side. And sometimes you're presented with opportunities and you feel like you have to give an answer there and then. You don't. You can take time. You can take time to decide what's best for you and what your next steps are. And even if you are made redundant, you can take time if you have that. Obviously, I know not everybody has that luxury to be able to go, well, I won't work for a couple of months while I decide, but you have time to sit and reflect and decide what's next for you. And even if you don't end up being made redundant, you've just been through the process. I think sometimes we don't think about how hard that can be as well, how the emotional turmoil of going through that, seeing some of your colleagues get made redundant and you stay, that is hard. The structure might change that you were used to, your job role might change a little bit, even if you do stay. And for me, I know I questioned whether the organisation was where I wanted to be because of going through that redundancy. It took a couple of rounds of going through redundancy for me to get to that point. But I think giving ourselves permission to think about all of those things and to decide what we want to do next for our own well-being, where's that journey going to take us next, is really, really important. But I think the most important thing is that it's never you. It's never your fault, even though it feels like it does when you're going through redundancy. And you are always welcome here and to chat to any of us if you need to. You are never, ever, if we go back to that, you are not alone. You are never, ever alone, and we're all here to help you. So we've talked about resilience and how we care for ourselves. Now let's take a look at how we care for the integrity of what we do, because alongside all of the personal and organisational challenges this year, the fundraising regulator has introduced a new code of fundraising practice that took effect on the 1st of November. Now, the first time I looked at this, I thought, oh, there's nothing here for trust fundraisers. There's nothing to concern us. We don't need to worry. Because it seemed mostly like it was public fundraising, campaigns, legacies, that kind of thing. But there are some important updates that apply to us too. And I just wanted to take a moment or two to run through them with you. So the new code absolutely places stronger emphasis on accountability and transparency, and that starts at the top. Trustees are now explicitly responsible for ensuring all fundraising is carried out legally, openly, honestly, and respectfully. For us trust fundraisers, that means making sure our organisational fundraising policies are current and accessible. Do you have your gift handling, ethical policies up to date? Do the trustees have sight of those? Have they been reviewed recently? Is that something you can have a look at? Make sure that everything you want to be reflected about trust fundraising and all of those policies are, and that the trustees have sight of anything that's changed. Make sure trustees are informed about your approach, including any risk management and ethical decision making. That might mean adding a short section to your monthly report if that's something that you're in charge with, or asking your line manager to help you get that conversation onto the board's agenda. So if you know that you're going to be putting in a large application, have a look at where that money might be coming from. You can find that in the Charity Commission's accounts for that charity that you're applying to. Does that match? Is there anything there you need with your organisation's ethical policies? Is there anything there that you might need to flag up to the trustees in case you were successful? Same with any large donations that you get through trusts. Have you done all your ethical checks to make sure that you know where that money is coming from? And again, is there anything that you need to flag up to your trustees that they need to be aware of? A lot of the new policies and guidance that's coming out through the including the fundraising regulator, is about making sure that you're making notes of all of this, that you're keeping really, really, really good records. So even if you just note that you've done those checks and that you've passed that information to the trustees, you're doing what you should be doing, and you've made everyone aware that you should be made aware of, and that you've got great notes about that. So if anything does come back of it, you've got those notes to show that you followed what you needed to be doing. Every application and report must connect clearly to your organization's wider strategy, not just your single project. So because trustees are ultimately accountable for what's happening within your organization, you need to make sure that any project that you're doing clearly signposts back to what your organization's vision, mission, and remit is. So that's just about making sure you're connecting everything back into what you're doing, and that it all makes sense from a top down perspective. If someone was to come and say and look at that project, they can go, absolutely, I can see why you're doing that. So for example, this is a really wild example, but if you were working with children, you wouldn't then be putting out there a project that focuses on elderly people. That's a really massive gap of a example, but it's making sure that everything links back in, and that again, that you're documenting that, you're showing that through the applications that you're putting out there, that you're being very clear about what your organization's mission and vision is. So this one's especially relevant if you're managing capital or restricted fundraising. The code now stresses that you must be crystal clear about how funds will be used and what happens if you raise too little or too much. So check that any appeal wording sets out exactly what happens in each scenario. So what will happen if you get too much money through your appeal? If you're doing a capital appeal, and you raise more money than you need to build your new building, what will happen to that any money that you have left over? Will you be giving it back? Will you be putting it into unrestricted funds? Yes, this might mean some trusts, some of your donors might ask for that money back. It's rare, but you have to give them that option by letting them know what might happen to their money. If you raise too little, what will happen? Does that mean the project won't go ahead? Will you fund it from your reserves? Again, you have to be really upfront and clear about what will happen in each scenario. You have to make sure that funders are kept updated if project costs, timelines, or the scope of your project changes. This is something I think a lot of trust fundraisers do instinctively anyway, because it's a really, really, really good way of keeping in touch with our funders. It's a way of showing them that they can trust you because you're letting them know about the good things and also the things that aren't so good. If things are running behind, if project costs have increased, because the way everything seems to be going at the minute, any building work seems to be going through the roof in terms of money, that you are communicating that with them, giving them a chance to come up with a solution with you. That might mean they might put some more money into the pot to help you get over the line. That might mean that you have a conversation about the end of grant report might be a little bit later because you need some more time to finish your capital project, but it's making sure that they're clued in and that these things don't come at the end of the project and you go, oh, by the way, we weren't able to do this or we weren't able to do that. Sharing where things haven't gone quite as well can sometimes work just as well as where things have gone really, really well, because you're bringing them on that journey with you. You must make sure your finance systems can track restricted income accurately with clear reconciliation between departments. Again, this goes back to if you're having to let your donors know what will happen to funds if you're over or under, you need to be able to accurately tell them where that has happened. So if you know trust money that's coming in pushes you over your target, then you'll probably have to go back and have that conversation with them about what will happen next. So being able to have really accurate financial systems, particularly around restricted income, is really, really important. Always has been, it is even more so now. Excuse me, even though trust fundraising feels more back office, protecting vulnerable people is a big thing again in the new fundraising code. We're still communicating with people. Sometimes family foundations or small community trusts And the new code reinforces that everyone involved in fundraising needs to be able to recognize and respond appropriately to vulnerability. That means ensuring that all correspondence, especially around sensitive causes or case studies, is written with care, empathy, and respect. Now, I know if we're putting case studies in, we have all the absolute proper things in place to make sure those case studies are, okay to use and that they've been written very sensitively. But the new fundraising code absolutely makes sure that we are all aware of the vulnerabilities of people that we might be communicating with. This goes to something that Ed put in the chat a little while ago. Everyone needs to have an AI policy. Absolutely, we do, because the updated code recognises that digital tools underpin almost every part of fundraising now, including trust fundraising. So again, have your AI policy. It's explicit now that any AI drafted material, applications, reports, or funder communications has to be reviewed by a human for accuracy, fairness, and tone. I think accuracy is the most important thing. We know that AI can sometimes put in little falsities in the information that they've pulled across. So making sure that you can cite sources of where that information has come from is really, really important, and something that the fundraising regulator can have a look at, that making sure that you're doing that. So having your AI policy, as Ed says, in place is really, really important. Review how you collect, store, and share data. That can even be by grant portals, what you keep in your CRM, and any shared folders that you use across the organization. So making sure you're not sharing any sensitive personal data, you're making sure that everything has been anonymized, looking at what, if any grant portals that you're using, Ludlow, for example, making sure that the protections to keep that data safe are there, and making sure that you're not sharing anything personal or sensitive through those grant application portals. Then finally, the code puts more focus on learning from complaints, not just recording them. Recording them is still really, really important. And although formal complaints are really rare in trust fundraising, it's still worth noting any informal feedback that you that you receive. So again, this isn't just about recording it. We don't always record that informal feedback that we get. That's something that I think we really now need to start recording, that we're taking on board that feedback and what changes we're making. What do we need to do to improve what we're doing, and how have we thought about that as well? Those insights can really strengthen future relationships and demonstrate our own accountability, that we've listened, that we're taking things on board. So all of this isn't about adding pressure. It's about embedding good, ethical, transparent practice into everything we do. And a lot of this we already do as trust fundraisers. A lot of this is about making sure we have those formal things in place where we're recording all of this, that we have our AI policy in place, that we're making sure everything is checked really carefully. If anybody asks to see our thought process, we can articulate that, we can show them where we have those procedures written down, and that we have a place for everything to be, where we can know everything, and every decision that we've made is there to be able to be viewed. For me, all of this is a reminder that it's not just about bringing in the money, is it? Although that's really important, it's about building confidence with those that we're trying to get money from, building credibility, and also building that trust. Has anybody got any questions to the new code of fundraising practice here? Anything that you want to go over? Anything you want to comment? Dale says, I attended the fundraising regulator and they said we need a separate fundraising complaints policy to our general complaints policy. Absolutely. And I would say that's been around for quite a little while, that having a separate fundraising complaints policy is probably a good thing to have, because general complaints can often be about the service that you're running as a charity, as you in your organization. Fundraising complaints can be slightly different. And also, if the fundraising regulator wants to come in and check anything, then they can easily see that you have a fundraising complaints policy separately, and can find anything that they need to. Polly says, does anyone have some template policies for these that smaller charities can use to build on? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Fundraising Excellence Framework has some policy templates on there, all absolutely um, free to use. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm not right, but I'm sure I've seen some policies on there as well that you can go and have a look at. It might take a little while for everybody to update everything that they've got to reflect the new changes, because I know lots of charities are still taking these things on board. Yeah, no, they do just wasn't sure if they were up to date with this new format. I'm not 100% sure either if they're up to date, but I'm sure that's something that Ian will be working on if he hasn't already been through and done that. Let me just go back. Fiona says, does anyone have a donation acceptance and refusal policy they would be willing to share? I'm working on one, but trustees have lots of questions and I'm struggling without seeing other real policies to help back me up. Yep. Again, they might have one of those on the charity excellence, and also have a look in the files in the Trust Fundraising Forum, the group chat on Facebook. There's often quite a few things in there as well. And if there isn't something, that's another good place to ask. If anybody's got a copy that you can have a look at. Nicola, has anyone used any trainers to deliver training on the new code? That's something we can do, just a shameless plug, at Money Tree Fundraising. If you would like some training on the new code, that's absolutely something that Money Tree Fundraising can have a chat with you about doing that. I delivered some training to a hospice online a couple of weeks ago, and that went down really well. Sometimes I think it's just reinforcing what you already know, isn't it? You know, it's quite a lot to take in sometimes when you see a wash of new things come through, but it's actually what's relevant. What do I need to pick out? What do I need to do from this? So Nicola, if you want to have a chat about that outside of the chat today, please do reach out to us, and that's something we can have a chat about doing for you. That's not a problem. Anybody got anything else they want to touch on before we move on from the lovely fundraising regulator and their new code? Amazing. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? But it's just yes, Anne, do you need charities access framework? Yep, for templates. Have a look. Like I said, there aren't I'm not sure if they're up to date what's on there, but I'm pretty sure that there's policies on there, and I'm sure Ian will be updating those if he hasn't already. Alice says, are there any changes relating to using freelancers and solicitation statements? No, it's still explicitly clear that freelancers and should be using the solicitation statements. It's a little bit more free about in what circumstances that we might use freelancers or consultants and how we might pay them. But again, it's all about documenting everything, any decision making that you're taking in bringing in a freelancer or a consultant, the decisions you took behind that, making sure that you're documenting them, making sure that you are every ethical policy, everything that you have, the freelancer, the consultant are also using that, because the buck doesn't stop with the freelancer or the consultant, it stops with the organization employing them. Same as if you're using any third party organizations, if you're doing any face-to-face, if you're using any solicitors to do free wills, any messaging that they're using, if anyone complains about it, it won't go to the solicitors, it will come to the organization. So you have to really make sure that you have really strict stringence around who you're using, that you're checking everything, even down to they're also and this is something the regulator is taking up with the platforms themselves, but if you're using places like Just Giving, you need to be making sure that the wording that they're using about any hidden fees, any way that they talk about the work that they do and the work that you do, your organization does, it again all comes back to you. So you need to be really sure that what you're using, any external third party people that you're using, you've been through that really robust, documented process, that this is the right thing to do for your organization. But in terms of the solicitation statement, nothing's changed. We still have to be really clear and upfront if you're making any applications on behalf of anybody else, that you make sure that you use that solicitation statement, and that might put off Potential funders, the National Lottery is absolutely against using consultants, and say that they won't accept any applications from consultants. So you have to balance up um, the right way to do it for your organization. And again, make sure that you're really documenting the decision making process behind everything that you do. That's what's really important with the new code. They want lots of documentation, lots of policies, making sure that you're keeping really good notes about all those decisions that you're making within your organization and why it's best for your organization to do it that way. It's kind of left it I think that they've kind of left it up to interpretation of a lot of places because they want it to be flexible enough for your organization. But that just means you have to really, really document why it's the right thing for your organization. So I thought what we'd do now is have a look at 2026. And as we approach year end, I think now is the time to take stock of how your trust fundraising year has gone and the impact you've had on your organization. You might not always feel it, but your input, your passion, your efforts, they really do matter. And you should take some time to be proud of that before the end of the year. Take some time out, look at what you've been doing. Like we were talking about before, I can't remember who it was, sorry, but said they had a spreadsheet of all their successes and everything that they've had going on that they could reflect on, that they could look at. That's a really good thing to do at the end of the year, just to remind yourself of all the good things that you have actually done in a year that probably feels, like we said, very mixed, very challenging. When you're having a look at your success for grants, these are the funders that you want to keep warm. So check what reports or updates are due and make sure you're not getting caught out by any Christmas deadlines. That doesn't mean don't take that Friday off to go do some Christmas shopping. That doesn't mean go and watch, don't go and watch your kids doing their nativity this year because you've got to get those deadlines. It's about being prepared. It's about prioritizing what needs to get done. Look at your warm funders first. Those are the things that are really important. Are there any really pressing deadlines in the grant reports? Is there any applications that have to go in this side of Christmas that are really important and you don't want to miss? And then once you've done that, then you can look at anything else if you've got time to. But in December, that's probably enough, isn't it, to keep you going and fit in all the things that you need to do, especially if your annual leave finishes in December and you need to use up all those days you haven't managed to squeeze in anywhere else. It's really important to have that time off. So this is the time now to do that prep, to do that planning, to have a look at what needs to get done and do your prioritization. It's also a great opportunity to send any end of year roundups, any good news stories that you have for your warm contacts, even if a report isn't due and you have that space and the time to do. And a Christmas card, especially if you have lovely Christmas cards with your charity branding on them, now's the time to do that. They are always a lovely touch. Put some time aside to update your CRM or your trust records, not just for accuracy, but so you can start 2026 with a really clean data and a clear picture of relationships, any up and coming deadlines, and any potential trust that you've yet to qualify that have been on your to-do list for a while. Now might be the time to find 5 minutes to have a look at that and see whether you can put them into your pipeline proper and see where they fit in your to-do list. This is what you're doing. You're making sure your pipeline is up to date, and that helps you create your to-do list and start mapping out those 2026 opportunities really early, especially for those January, February deadlines. They can come up really quickly after Christmas, can't they? Think about what information you might need now for then, now, and that you can start gathering now. So if you know that it takes a little while to get updated data from your data analysis or from your service team, now's the time to put in those requests. And then you can not worry about it until the new year, until after you've had that break. You don't want that mad rush in January when you think, oh God, I needed that data, and then putting in that request for it then. If you do it now, if you look through what you need refreshing, now is the time to start putting those things in. I always think the end of the year isn't going to be busy. It's going to be fine. We're going into Christmas. It'll be a nice gentle stroll into Christmas. But it always ends up being really, really busy because lots of trusts have their deadlines in December for some reason, or in early January. So as much prep as you can start now, hopefully the less stressful your new year will be. So let's end today's session by looking ahead to 2026. And I'd love to open this up to you again. What are your hopes for next year? Probably finding more balance, maybe rebuilding some confidence, securing some core funding we've talked about in the chat, or simply having a year that feels a little bit more stable. It's like that, when you go into your appraisals or your one-to-ones, and where would you like to be in 5 years' time? And you feel like you have to come up with this big thing like, oh, I want to be CEO or something like that. Actually, I'd quite like a year that's a little bit more stable and a little less challenging. That is absolutely valid after the year that we've just been through. Share what it is that you might want some more support with. Are there other ways that we could use these monthly Let's Chat sessions? Anything that you'd like to see us cover in these sessions? Any way that we can use them a bit better? Something that you would value? Do you need more peer spaces like this? Do you need more resources? Do you want more conversations with funders? More collaborative conversations with funders. Where do you think trust fundraising will be in 2026? Do you think that it's going to be another tough year? Do you think that we're going to see some big changes coming into the sector? Do you think more trust funders will go invitation only? I'm hearing that quite a bit, that more funders are switching to that. So then it becomes more about how your organization can market itself, it can present itself, rather than necessarily things that trust fundraisers can do specifically. It'd be more about those connections. Caroline, hope to secure some new funders to replace those who have stopped funding us this year. Absolutely. Having a look and giving yourself space to do that as well, isn't it? Giving yourself space to have a look, like we said, qualify some of those people that might have been on your to-do list for a while, and having a look through and seeing whether some of those you can move up into your pipeline, but also having a look at some of the funders that may be funding you at lower levels. Is there any opportunity there for them to fund you a little bit higher? Is there some work that you can do there about what's the word I'm looking for? The communications, the way that you communicate with them. Is there some work you can do there about warming them up a little bit more? Let's have a look at the chat. Dell, I think more trusts and foundations will go invite only or only previous grantees, so hopefully we can market ourselves better. Absolutely, this is something that we've chatted a lot on the chats and on some of the training that I do, is looking at how you can market yourself better as an organisation, as trust funders. What can we do to kind of get ourselves in front of those invitation only opportunities, because I can see that that's how it's going too. And Deborah, also agree with Dell, we'll be spending a lot of time researching new potential prospects. Absolutely. I think we all will, won't we? It says we are at a true inflection point where there are too many charities going after the same pots. Something has to give. I can only see another very, very hard year, especially for smaller charities that don't have an established pipeline. Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard, isn't it? It's going to be hard for all of us. I know even some of the big players in the sector are struggling. Luckily for them, they have other income streams that they can rely on, that they can fall back on. Lots of small organisations, really rely on those trust and grants to come in and help them with their projects. We're seeing the effects of that already, aren't we, with some of the closures and downscaling and some of the organisations in the sector already. And I wonder about the impact, we've talked about this on the chats as well, of AI on those too many charities going after the same pots. Is it too easy now to put in applications? Is that what is oversaturating the market? Maybe because those small organisations, although it helps them level the playing field, is that where we've seen some of the increase coming from? That it's easier to make those applications now. Sarah says we are looking at some partnership bids with other charities, and I think that's another way things are potentially going to go as well. That we're going to be looking at those more and more partnership bids to make the impact of any money that's coming in stretch further, so the breadth of our projects are wider and deeper, and that means there's more impact for the trust when they're making decisions about where to put that money. I think impact always has been and definitely will be something that's absolutely important to trust funders as they move forward. They want to see, was it bang for their buck? They want to make sure that um, they're really seeing the impact of anything that they're putting out there because they're really stretched as well, aren't they? I think in general, we're hoping for a little bit of a more stable year, a little less challenging. Whether we'll get that or not, who can be sure? Um, we do have a quick kind of 5 minutes or so if anybody has any questions that haven't been covered by any of the topics we've been through today. Please do feel free to pop them in the chat or pop your hand up and come on screen if that's something you feel comfortable doing. I think we've had some great chats and insight today, and I know it's been really tough for everybody, but I hope you're all planning to have some time off coming up to Christmas so you can refresh and recharge and come back in January ready to go in this crazy ride we call Trust Fundraising again. It's been great doing these Let's Chats with you this year. I've really enjoyed them, and I hope you've all found them really useful. It's been really interesting hearing your insights because sometimes you only hear them from kind of one point of view, what you're seeing and hearing and feeling out there. So to get your feedback on some of the topics that we've talked about this year has been really invaluable, and I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to come along and also put their thoughts and feelings in the chat. It's been amazing. Our next, just a date for the diary, let me grab my notepad. Our next Trust Fundraising Live will be on the 26th of January, same time, 12 noon. If this time doesn't work for people, you must let me know and we can have a look at changing them. This is kind of a historical time. And we will be running them monthly, all being well. That is the plan. I've got them planned in so far up until, let me have a look, July next year. So the plan is to do them monthly, barring any changing of CRM databases and things or anybody being off poorly. So hopefully we'll get January's date, which is the 26th of January, out really soon so you can start booking in on that session, and then it will be the 24th of February, the next one after that. So we usually have a break in August for the summer, and we usually have a break in December, but apart from that we're going to be trying to do these really regularly, once a month. So I hope to see you all then. If we've not got any more questions, let me just check the chat. Fantastic. I'm just going to pop up some contact details for you all. If there is anything that we can help with at Moneytree, or you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I try and share some monthly Meet the Funder events that are going on because those are really invaluable in the sector and a great way to find some information. And also any up and coming trust deadlines, I share those monthly too, and also some hints and tips and things that are going on in the sector that I'm seeing and hearing in lieu of these Let's Chats. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of 2025 and a good start to 2026. Have a lovely Christmas, and hope you get some time to celebrate and rest and relax. Thanks so much, everybody. Everybody take care. Bye, everyone.